Hi guys, welcome to the second video in the JavaScript Crash course. Now in this video what we're going to do is get everything set up, ready for the rest of the crash course. So we'll start with downloading our code editor, which for this crash course will be VS Code, add a few extensions to VS Code, then learn how to create folders and files in VS Code, and the 3 ways we can implement JavaScript. And finally we're going to take a look at the console inside the browser, as well as the console log method to help us out throughout the crash course. If you guys like the content and are new to the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Alright guys, so the first thing we need to do is install our code editor, and the one I'm going to be using throughout this crash course is Visual Studio Code, and this is the code editor I recommend to use. It's probably the most popular too. So we'll go inside the first tab, and then you can download this for Windows, or you can download it for Mac or Linux. I'm going to be downloading it for Windows, so you just click on the download button and it should start downloading. So once it's finished downloading, you click on the tab here. So all we have to do is just follow this process. So it's pretty quickly next, next, and next. And what you're going to do is actually create a desktop icon, and then we'll just click next again. So we install this, we'll click finish. Now once you've installed VS Code, you should get this window open up, and this is basically just the welcome page for Visual Studio Code. And from here we can do a few things. Now this isn't going to be an in-depth look into VS Code and all of its features, but I'm just going to go over a few things you can do now off the bat. So to our right here you've got a couple of walkthrough sections. So if you just click on the first one, you can see here you can change the color theme of Visual Studio Code. You go to this next section here, and there's a few other capabilities that you can adjust. Now when you guys have some more free time after this tutorial, you can come on here and explore some of these changes. But what I will show you guys is that if you go to this small cog here, which is the manage section, you click on here and go into settings. You'll see here some of the commonly used settings or the commonly changed settings. So the autosave here by default is set to off, but I've changed this to after delay, but you can change to on focus or on Windows change. You can also change the font size as well as the font family. But one thing I would recommend changing when you do come onto here is changing the word wrap to on. Now what this essentially does is that if we change the width of the window here, which you probably will do when we look at one of the extensions in just a moment, but if you've got a long bit of text or a long bit of content, instead of creating an overflow and a scroll bar, turning the word wrap to on will put the content onto a new line, which will come in very handy. So that's just some of the settings we can adjust. Now the next thing you want to do is just go over to the sidebar here and go to the bottom icon, which is the extensions. Click on here and you can see all the different extensions you can install for VS Code. And again, when you guys have some free time, you can come on here, browse through these extensions, and if you like them you can install them and use them for your projects. Now the two we're going to be using is Live Server and Bracket Pair Colorizer. So we'll start by downloading Live Server. So we just type in here Live Server, click on the first link here, and what a Live Server essentially does is after you install it, an automated local host will be able to run in your browser, which you can start with a single button and will link to your Visual Studio Code and your content. And once you make changes in your content or your code or write something new, after saving it, the browser will auto refresh itself, as you can see here in this video example. So we'll just click install and it should install pretty quickly. And now you're ready to start using Live Server. Now the next extension we're going to be using is the Bracket Pair Colorizer. So Bracket Pair Colorizer, click on here, and what this extension does, as you see here, allows you to match brackets to be identified with colors. The user can then define which characters to match and which colors to use. Now this may not look that important at the moment, but this is super helpful with matching brackets, which in the world of JavaScript can actually be quite complex. So this actually helps us out a lot. So we'll just install this one too. Now what we need to do from here is just create a folder. So I'm just going to go on my desktop here and create a new folder. And we're just going to call this JavaScript Crash course, and then just grab this folder and copy it inside our Visual Studio Code window. And then from here we just need to create an index.html file. So we'll go inside the folder, new file, index.html, and let's just create a really basic document layout here, and then let's just change the title to JavaScript Crash course. And then we'll go inside the body and just put a H1 in here saying JavaScript rules. So now we have our folder and our HTML document. We come to the moment you've all been waiting for, and that's how we can add JavaScript to our web page. Now adding JavaScript code to our web page is actually a pretty simple process. There's a few methods we can apply here. So to insert JavaScript we need script tags, and you can insert these script tags either in the head here, so we can put script tags here, and then you can insert JavaScript inside the script tags. Now you can also put the script tags inside the body. So we'll insert some script tags here. And again, you can start writing JavaScript inside here and it will work. Now the recommended way of writing out JavaScript and inserting it inside your web page is using an external file, which is similar to an external CSS style sheet. So we're going to need to create that file first. So I'm just going to call this JavaScript.js. And now we have our JavaScript file. Now what we need to do is link this to our HTML. So the way we do that is we'll go inside the script tags here and we'll go inside the opening script tag, and we need to use a source attribute. So we need to source it to that JavaScript file. So we'll just say javascript.js, and it's really as simple as that. We can now start adding JavaScript to our web page with our external JavaScript file. So now we're all set up with using VS Code and linked to our external JavaScript file. The last thing we're going to do is just learn a bit about the console. So in modern day web development, we have the console, and what the console essentially does is give us an opportunity for us to test things out when we're writing out our JavaScript. So it can be a really helpful tool in debugging things and just a great way to output stuff. So to access the console, what I'm going to do first is use our first extension. So to open up Live Server, you go into your HTML file, you can right click or you can click at the bottom here where it says Go Live. So you can see here when I hover over it, it says click to run Live Server. And as you can see, it opens up our file here on Google Chrome. But on our settings, you can actually adjust where you want the Live Server to open. So if you want to use it on a different internet browser, then you could just go inside your settings and change it there. So what I'm going to do now is just split screen this with our index.html file with our JavaScript Crash Course folder. So you can see here our H1, so it's got JavaScript rules, and I'm just going to close off the Explorer there. Now if we want to access the console, all we need to do is open up our DevTools inside the browser here. Now depending on which browser you use or which system you use, this could be a little bit different, but for Chrome, to find the console, you can either go in the browser here, right click and click on Inspect, and it will open up DevTools, and you can see all the tabs that the DevTool has, and you can see here the console. Now the second method is just using F12. So click F12 here and we'll open up the DevTools again, and you can see we're inside the console again. Now what we can do inside this console is directly insert JavaScript and it will execute. So let's say we want to execute some sort of mathematical multiplication. So we can do 1 plus 2, hit enter, and you'll see it'll give us 3. And again, we could pretty much insert any form of JavaScript in here and it will execute. And we can actually affect the H1 inside the body here. So to do that, we'll go inside the console again, say document.query selector. Now don't worry about what any of this means. I'm just showing you guys how we can actually affect elements inside of the document here using the console. So the element we want to affect is the H1. So we'll put brackets in here, single quote marks, close off the quote marks and the brackets, grab the style, grab the color, and let's change the color of this to, let's say, blue. Close that off with a semicolon, hit enter, and as you can see now our H1 has changed the color to blue. Now this is pretty cool, but we're not going to be writing out all of our JavaScript inside the DevTool console here. That would be pretty unproductive. So to log it all from our code editor, we're going to use the method of console log. So we'll go inside the JavaScript file here we have already, and as it's already linked to our index.html file here through the script and the source attribute, we can now start applying our JavaScript inside this file. And we can pretty much do the exact same thing as we've just learned here. So what I'm going to do is actually just get rid of this and open this back up so we have a clean slate. Go inside the console and let's just do log, so console log, and let's do 1 plus 2, and as you can see it's giving us 3 here. And if we duplicate this, and we can change the color of the H1 inside of the HTML document. So what we need to do is grab the document and then grab query selector, and then what we do is grab the H1, grab the style, and then grab the color. And let's just change it to another color this time. So let's say we want it to be red. And as you can see, we're getting the exact same output as before when we inserted it inside the console here, but this is in a much more practical way through our external JavaScript file here. Now for console log, the more important part here is that it can be used to log variables of any kind. So let's just create a variable here. So we'll just go delete this one and delete the multiplication, and let's just create a variable. So var car equals let's say Ferrari, and then close that off. And then what we can do is log in the variable of car, And if we look at the output here, it's given us the value of Ferrari, which we've assigned here to this variable. So as we can see from here, the JavaScript external file is working perfectly fine. So that'll be it for the video, guys. Again, if you enjoyed the content, please hit that like button to show support and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.